everybody. My name's Jacob.
Is anybody else creeped out? I'm sorry. Okay, hit the match just to the back. Just like watching it like crap. We better do a good job.
Ladies and gentlemen, Ichiro,
everybody
Lambe is in the house.
Everybody stop talking shit.
Now everyone quiet please as Ichiro comes to the stage.
So I've been texting Tyler all morning.
You've been texting him cookie recipes.
Quotes from his own game reviews. And he keeps typing like 220, stop. And I don't think he realized it was
I did it once.
Okay, that was my joke. I'm done.
I figured it out as soon as you mentioned the word closure.
All right. So obviously you're all here because you want to know why we all make friends in the indie gaming community and why you would rather make friends than be by yourself and make a game alone in your room. So my name is Jacob, I'm the moderator. I run Indies Need Booze. So I've been running the largest indie gaming party for the past 3 years. I got started thanks to Ichiro. I cold emailed him and I was like, hey, how do I start a party? I love your games. He's like, oh, we have events here. And our first event had 80 people and I've been going from there since, so. You want me?
Hi, I'm Danny Silvers. I am CEO of Lantana Games, an educational game developer here in the area. I've been in indie for, this will be my 6th year of it, and had a couple free games that you've never heard of, and just launched a game on Steam Early Access last year called Children of Liberty. Yeah, but Boston Big's in the past for me, so.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's gone. He's moved on.
Jeez, man.
Yes.
We go down the line?
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Ichiro from Dejobaan Games. We're best known for games like and lately for a writing game called Elegy for a Dead World, which just lost the IGF, but that's okay.
It won in our hearts.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Tyler Glaiel. I made a whole bunch of Flash games back in the day, and then I released a game on PlayStation called Closure. And then I released the Basement Collection on Steam, and now I'm working on Bomber Nuts. And I'm just keep making stuff all over and over again.
So Tyler, some of the, I just sent you a whole pile of reviews here, and you keep texting stop to
That is a lot of
this.
messages than I actually received.
Okay, we'll read these at the end.
Okay.
I'm Trevor Stricker. I have an indie studio called Disco Pixel. I started making games on the Dreamcast. And these gray hairs are real. I made console games for 10 years, things like NBA 2K or Panzer Dragoon Orta. Most recently, we shipped a rhythm game, Jungle Rumble, on the PlayStation Vita and on iOS. And I'm here to talk about this indie adventure with you guys.
Hi, I'm Tom Fulp. I'm a co-founder of the Behemoth. We made Alien Hominid, Castle Crashers, and Battle Block Theater. I'm also a history of lots of web games, so in a website called Newgrounds. So maybe click.
Maybe.
I'm actually going to give Tom a hard time because we were just talking about it. He left off the best game that he made, which is The Room, the game. Anyone? Yeah, there we go. He made that. So that's what he really deserves. It's awesome. You should play it. I'm Eitan. I'm the founder of Firehose Games, local Boston studio. We're here showing off 20xdx and Cat Lateral Damage in the Mega Booth. And I co-founded the Mega Booth too, and also made a bunch of games like Go Home Dinosaurs and Flammable Scrappers. Yay!
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to guide these people with questions, and then we're going to have Q&A at the end for anybody who has cool questions. So.
Can I say something to preface?
Yeah.
I think, with the exception of Tom, I know everybody here, and I like everybody here, so we're gonna really be hard on each other, I think.
Yeah.
Ichiro, why don't you let Jacob ask some goddamn questions?
I like to hear myself talk.
Really though, who cares about fellow developers? Why not be an island? Who cares? Why should I care about you, dude? Why?
So, I'm a very introverted, nerdy person, and I think if I could just stay home in my fuzzy bunny slippers and write code all day, like some hermit, I would love that. but then nobody would ever buy my games and I would starve. And that would be really sad.
So, a slightly roundabout way to answer that question. A question that I got yesterday at the booth, aspiring indie dev came up to me and she asked me, what's the hardest part of indie dev? Which is like a crappy question, because you're like, I don't know. But I thought about it for a little while.
It's all hard.
You know what? You know what the hardest part is? Getting attention. Getting people to know who you are and to care, right? And so, a lot of people think it's, oh, making the game is hard, or coding, or art, whatever. No, the hardest thing is to get people to notice you and to give a shit. And that's a big part of the reason why being on your own is no good. If you're in your own bubble, it's going to be that much harder to get attention. And if you go out and make friends and talk to people, it's really going to help you kind of boost the noise you're making about the game. And that's just from like the kind of marketing PR perspective. There are other reasons why, in terms of like helping development, a lot of times you're going to be hitting a wall, you're going to be having trouble, and just having a support group of people that have kind of gone through the same thing and understand those problems, it's super useful to have. Like, I bug a lot of the people on this panel all the time when I'm feeling shitty and I need someone to kind of help me through something tough.
Yes, you do. That's been happening a lot.
It's true, no, like, you know, when I played pool and like, made me feel better about none of our games ever selling.
Honesty.
Why is it important to make friendships and just collect business cards?
Well, what's the purpose of collecting business cards? Right? The way that you network is you go out there, and even if you're meeting with somebody on a business level, you want to collect their business cards, and if you make a personal connection, they'll invite you to dinner, and suddenly you're talking about something wonderful, and you find out that you all, you've been to the Cayman Islands, and you have a bank account unregistered, and then you connect, and you start working on games together, or they're a platform holder, and they're like, wow, I really like you, and I like your games, and I'm going to feature your stuff on the front page of whatever platform they are, and unless your games are independently really popular and amazing, they probably need, well, I mean, they could be amazing, but they probably need that initial push. So if I, for instance, go up to Tyler and I say, hey Tyler, I'm having trouble with my game, he's going to go up to me and say, go fuck yourself. Which is why I never got his business card.
Just to add to that, business card holders are finite and cost money, and friendships are infinite, and if, you know, a person doesn't treat you like shit, they're free.
Can you not afford business
I like
But actually, seriously, business cards are so 20th century. You know, you leave a conference like this, you literally have a stack this thick, and then there's that guy who just like shakes your hand with the business card in it.
And it's like, here, you throw this out for me.
Yeah, exactly. You know, life is about connecting with other people, and business is even more so. And you really need to connect with people, like find out what they want. Like, of course, we know what you want as an indie developer, Eitan. You want people to pay attention to your game. And we know what Ichiro wants. We know he wants to hear his own voice. But like,
shit on Ichiro hour.
you know,
It's all right, I can't blame you.
I thought we agreed to stop that once he showed up.
good relationships are a two-way street. And it's good to know, like, you know, you talk to Sony. Sony's been really great to us. You know, they put us on the front page of PSN on the Vita, which is really cool. And, you know, it's because they like, you know, I try and work with them and, you know, give them cool stuff to put on the blog, which takes me a lot of time and effort, but it's what they want. Or make a cool trailer that they can put on YouTube. So it's more about a two-way street than about collecting business cards.
So every developer who goes to GDC or PAX for the first time comes back with a box of like 250 business cards from random developers in it, and they never look in that box ever again. So all those business cards that they've collected have been basically pointless. They're basically glorified Pokemon cards with developers' names on it. And sometimes they're pretty cool developers, but you're not going to go and email them and be like, yo, you were one of the 250 people that gave me your business card at GDC. So if you actually want to like make a connection of someone you can ask for help or something, you have to, you know, be friends with someone and talk to them a couple of times and have a conversation about whatever. And just like, shoving a business card in someone's face isn't really going to help with that.
Unless you have Steam codes on those businesses.
Oh, yeah.
That would.
No, that's not true. Because the people like that you want to get a business card from, that you give a Steam code to, like honestly, they're not gonna.
Yeah.
They have all the Steam games
They're
already.
Valve and they don't need to.
Right, like they don't need your Steam code.
Hey, Gabe, I have a game on Steam. Here's a free code.
Can you imagine how ballsy that would be?
Yeah. Gabe would
No,
probably
more like, hi Gabe, I have a game on Desura. Here's
That would be bullshit. The next time you want to get a business card from someone, think to yourself, like, instead of getting a business card, is there some way I could, like, grab a bite to eat or a beer with them? Is there some way I could talk to them for 20 minutes about something they actually want to talk about and start building a relationship? It's a way better way to do it.
Yeah, everyone's always hungry at events too. It's very easy to just round up a crowd of developers that you've met once at the convention 5 minutes beforehand and go get food.
So Phil Fish, the guy that made Fez, back when he was shooting Indie Game the movie, I think they like shot some stuff where he was here at PAX, and like I ran into him like at the end of the day after PAX, and he was like super like down in the dumps and like going crazy and stressed out, and I had some extra pizza in the booth, and so I just came up with a box of pizza. I'm like, hey dude, do you want a slice of pizza? He's like, yes. And we just like sat there in the corner like eating cold like pepperoni pizza. And just like not talking to each other. And like we were friends after that. So, like, yeah, food is better than business cards.
I'm going to say really quick, Facebook has been really good for me. So every other day, me and Trevor are usually talking on Facebook, and Trevor's like, are you drunk today? I'm like, no, I'm perfectly fine. And we talk about, like, so I have 3 kids at home with my girlfriend right there. So it's always good to make personal connections with people. Because, I mean, you don't want to stop with the card. You want to go beyond the business card. So why should I be friends with people who are making games that will eat into my day 1 revenue?
The game industry sells, like, I probably should have looked this up, but like $20 or $30 billion worth of games a year. Does that sound right?
Sounds low.
Yeah, sounds low.
Like 5 trillion.
Yeah, 5 trillion, like, like double the GDP of the United States or something. So indie games are, if you ignore Minecraft, which you kind of have to do for most statistics in the game industry with indie game stuff, I'd be surprised if there were $100 million worth of indie games sold a year distributed amongst like 100 million developers. So, I don't know. Yeah, so you're not really going to be eating into each other's sales very much with that small portion of the game industry. The things you have to worry about are people not hearing about your game in the first place.
Okay, so I mean, let me flip the question around. So why should I be friends with people? They are gonna, like, you sell a copy of a game this month, and somebody might not buy my game. However, if I know people, they're going to help me a little bit more than that, single $10 game that I lost. If, for example, Eitan knows somebody at Google, and holy crap, I have an Android game, and I'm his friend, he's going to introduce me to the person at Google Play.
I think also, nobody buys just one game. We're not competing with each other any more than George Clooney is competing with Brad Pitt. That's why Ichiro and I are so tight.
I have everything I need in my house. Why do I need to leave the comfort of my home to meet people? I mean, my home is so
Sounds like your
comfortable.
house is pretty awesome.
It's got everything. I don't have it. It's got everything.
Jacob, I'm going to your place. Is that cool?
Yeah. Travel whenever you want, North Carolina.
I can take a stab at that. Yeah, so it's like I'm someone that works really well online. Like I make a lot of my friends online. But ultimately, when you're home all the time, you do start to feel like there's like a world happening out there that you're not part of. And it's energizing to get out and actually meet people, actually, play their games and talk to them about their games, face to face. It just sort of lifts everyone's spirits up, and it is something that you can't get from your interactions on the internet and just chatting online. So that's one of the things that I like about coming out to events like this.
There's also this like an opportunity cost to staying home all the time. So like you never know what's gonna happen when you do something, right? So like you guys are here at PAX, and like you're gonna have a good time, but like maybe some weird opportunity will come along that you would never be aware of. So Firehose Games, when we got started, we were like everyone else. We were nobody's small indie studio, and we came here to the very first PAX East in Boston, and we actually got into the proto version of the PAX East showcase at the time. And so like we spent a lot of time and effort getting the game ready for that. And like just by virtue of being here, like Kotaku wound up writing about us. And like they were the only ones that wrote about us. And then everyone wrote about us because Kotaku wrote about us, right? And like that was like something that happened because we took a lot of time and effort to come to something and try to meet people, right? And pretty much like every indie out there has a story that's like that. I'm sure we could go through the panel and everyone here could tell us similar. Like Alien Hominid, like, I mean, you guys were making games for a while before that, right? So, but like, every indie has a story about how they like took a chance and like went out and met a bunch of people, and then this random opportunity showed up that they never would have guessed about, and they capitalized on it and it worked out well for them.
One thing that I've noticed is that the more we're connected, the more we're disconnected. So you're staring at your computer screen all day. Maybe you're writing code, maybe you're in Photoshop making sprites or textures or whatever, but you're not really pushing what you're working on as far forward as you could be. Really, what it comes down to is, I know it's a cliche expression, but it's not what you can do, it's who you know. And hopefully, you can tweet at somebody all the time and they'll never give a crap about you. Because maybe that person has like 20, 30,000 Twitter followers and it's like, yeah, you and everybody else, pal. But you meet that person for real, get a beer with them or something, all of a sudden you've established a real connection, not just a connection in 140 characters.
Yeah, people recognize faces a lot easier than they recognize names. Is from what I've found out, just visiting people, you talk to them on Twitter and stuff, and you go to a convention, you meet them, and you'll be like, oh yeah, I'm so-and-so, I'm so-and-so, and introduce each other, and then the next year, we'll come around to the same convention, you'll recognize each other, but you'll forget the names, and but you'll remember the faces, so you can start up a conversation again, and that's how people end up getting to know each other in the game industry and stuff.
I think the other thing too is that you never know who you're going to meet, but it's not about how important that person is. Anybody can become popular in the very next second. Dan's game could blow up maybe in a month. You could become a millionaire. I have no idea. But the thing is, unless you make connections with people, like real connections with people, you're never going to make that opportunity.
And to follow up that comment, don't be such a, like a calculating bastard, right? Like, you're not meeting all these people because you want to meet the next famous person. You're meeting these people because you want to make friends, right? Like, people can smell bullshit a mile away. And like, if you go up to, Notch, and you're like, oh my gosh, I want to be your friend. He's gonna know you're full of shit, right? Like, you want to be friends with him because he's famous. And so when you go and make friends with people the normal way. Don't like try to do some weird MBA networking voodoo that you think is like gonna help you. Don't like have some calculation on, oh, I think this guy's gonna hit it big, so I should be friends with him. Go and make friends with this girl because she's fun, not because you think they're gonna be famous. And then she'll happen to get famous anyway. And great, but that's not the main thing.
And how about a question about how to go out and meet people? I mean, I meet a lot of people who are actually potentially interesting. I mean, everybody has interests, and everybody is interesting, but they
not you. So many people are boring.
So you can be boring. You can be boring, but also have an interesting inner life. Here's my point: is that a lot of people who are interesting do not know how to convey what is interesting about them. So they sit here and I'm interested in games and I want to be a game developer. And so if you are one of these people, and I am and have been, sit down and think about what is really interesting about what you do or what you've seen and whom you've talked to, and be able to communicate that with people. Because, for example, there's Luba, she's fascinating, right? She goes to port tastings and brings, you know, cheese and chocolates and 60-year-old freaking ports to port parties. Port. And where am I going with this? I don't know.
Ichiro needs a drink.
It is stuck on port. But anyway, so, you know, what is interesting, she's able to communicate what that is. And if you can't do that at a party, then why are you there?
Yeah, so another point about that is like, when you go to GDC or PAX or any other convention like this, a lot of people think that the one thing that makes them interesting is that they're interested in making games, but that's everyone at these conventions, which can make it a little bit difficult. So, I mean, you can, if you have a game that you're working on or some interesting perspective that you're putting into your games or a skill set or how you learn stuff, all that type of stuff is more interesting than just, oh yeah, I want to make games.
Have some fucking interest outside of goddamn games. I'm so sick of game developers that can't talk about anything but video games.
Totally agree.
I play ice hockey, like actual ice hockey, not a video game. Right. Do you have any idea how many friends I've made in the industry? Because like it comes up that we both play hockey, and then we're like best friends because we're talking about that asshole that we checked into the, you know, into the boards, right? Like have interests outside of video games. That's like a good lesson for life. If you ever watch any of Miyamoto's talks, everyone knows who Miyamoto's, right? The guy that made Mario, right? He's kind of a big deal. Like all of his talks are about his non-video game interests. He talks about how Pikmin was inspired by gardening. Nintendogs was inspired by his love of cats. I don't know. But
Wait, hold on, have you fact checked that?
Yeah, so, no, like, even Mario, right? Mario, what was the inspiration for that? When he was a kid, he would go exploring in the woods, and he would find like an interesting flower, or an interesting leaf, or an interesting mushroom, and that would be a power. They would go in caves. World 1, 2 in Mario, you go into a cave, right? Like that was inspired by him exploring the woods when he was little. Have interests outside of video games. It'll make your games better. It'll make you a better person. It'll give you perspective on life. Why are we even talking about games? I don't even know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A panel on games.
Yeah.
But I think that's an interesting point. Like, you know, Steve Jobs was kind of famous for studying calligraphy in college.
And not believing in cancer treatment.
Well,
Too soon.
But that's why Macs have amazing font control that now is standard on basically every computer. Because back in 1983, Steve Jobs was like, I want to be able to adjust the width of individual characters. Back then, like, just having lowercase letters was considered high tech.
Can't you just make a game by yourself and keep all the profits like Notch?
I'm trying.
We did made 1.6 bill off of that 2.5 bill deal.
So why are we not all doing that?
So thinking about money when you're making your game is the wrong way to do it.
Yeah,
So
even Notch, nobody knows who's going to be successful, and anybody who like talks about how this is going to be successful because it's this demographic or something is either lying to you or lying to themselves.
So yeah, when it comes to making money for games, you should be thinking about money. So I want to take back the comment I made. But you shouldn't be thinking about how much you're going to make. What you should be thinking about is, will this make me enough to live on? Okay? If this game is making you enough to live on, then great, keep doing what you're doing, that's fine. If your game's not going to make you enough to live on, then like stop what you're doing. I think there's like this notion that like everyone has a God-given right to make games. I don't believe in that. Like life, the universe doesn't owe you shit, right? Like sorry, life's not fair. And like if you can't afford to eat, then like you need to get a job and you need to like have enough money that you can like focus on life stuff and then worry about games. But if you have enough to like live on, great. Then focus on making the best game possible and like making sure you're promoting it as much as possible. Don't worry about, do we think we're going to make 5 million or 50 million, because that's like nonsense. That doesn't do you any good and it's a screwed up way to think.
I don't agree with you at all, ever. I actually think, you know, I've been saying this for years at any talk that I go to, and this doesn't address the question, but it does address why I think Eitan is wrong. There is, you know, imagine a Venn diagram, and in one circle are all the games that could potentially make a bunch of money, and then there are all the games that you could potentially really love making. Make the intersection of the two.
You still need to be able to eat.
Well, yeah,
or you could move to the middle of nowhere in the Midwestern United States and live on $200 a month or something. But
Yeah.
how does that counter what I'm saying?
Yeah.
well, but if the intersection of the two would still have to make you enough to eat.
The
The
whole
left
starting
circle
part
is
saying
all
it's
the
like-
games that could make you a millionaire. The right circle is all the games that you would want to make.
So you average them together and you make $500,000 on everything? Is that what you're saying?
Do you know what a fucking Venn diagram is?
Where's a whiteboard when you need one?
Why should I reach out to other people when I can just send my game to PewDiePie? I mean, he's...
No, if you can send your game to PewDiePie and have him cover it, hey, you've won. Don't bother reaching out to people.
That's wrong.
And I also,
If only PewDiePie plays your game, it's not going to make you a millionaire or anything, because most of PewDiePie's audience is not old enough to actually have credit cards to buy your games. So, no, that's like an actual statistic. Like, people, like game developers know pretty much how much percent of the views are going to turn into sales for different YouTubers, and PewDiePie's percent is pretty low compared to how many views videos get, as opposed to, you know, a lot of other Let's Players and stuff on YouTube. So, I mean, you can't just rely on the most popular one there. And even if you would read your email over the deluge of thousands and thousands of emails, people are like, I make a game on Steam, early access, here's a code, play it, please. It's, or worse, if you're interested, email me for a code.
I actually agree with you more than 100%, and here's my example. We have a game, a base jumping game called and we got onto, PewDiePie made a video of us. It has nearly 5 million views. As far as I could tell, that is translated into 10 sales.
We got covered by PewDiePie and it gave us sales.
You did?
Yeah, cat lateral damage. He covered cat lateral damage and that helped our Kickstarter, so I don't know.
Because you had cats.
Yeah, we had cats.
Cats.
The internet loves cats. I mean, the lesson here is what we've been saying all along, that like you need to talk to a lot of people, famous reporters, and like let's lump the YouTube folks into that. Like they have a lot of shit on their plates and they have a lot of stuff to cover, and they're only going to care about you if other people are already talking about you and you already look hot. It's kind of like a catch-22, but there it is, right? And unless you just happen to get stupid lucky, and that's kind of where you break out. And a lot on top of that, like it's a money-making business. You can see articles about this online, but like PewDiePie and these other people like they're selling their spots, right? It's not like they have indies sending them games and they're choosing to cover that. It's that they have someone sending them like $50,000 in a game and then they're covering it, right? So, yeah.
Plus, I mean, if your end goal is to get PewDiePie or a giant YouTuber to play your game, that's still like an attainable goal, but you just have to like work your way up there, make friends with YouTubers that have like 100,000 subscribers or 50,000 subscribers or even less than that, or really small Twitch channels that, you know, might have 100 people watching at any given time, but maybe someone bigger is watching them too and watching them play their games, and they'll vouch to their friends and they'll vouch to their friends, and it can work its way up if you have a good game.
So we can all see that Tom is on the panel. So why doesn't someone just come up to you from the audience and badger you until they become famous? Why would you tell them not to do this?
I could tweet about you. I'm not that big of a loudspeaker, I guess, but yeah, I can only do so much.
Bonus day.
But so that
But I love
like a solid idea.
I'd be happy. You're always welcome to email me to check out your stuff. I do try to check out people's stuff, and maybe I will tweet about it. So you can badger me.
I want to say, when I was like 14 years old, I was emailing Tom Fulp like fan mails and like, oh, I'm making stuff on Newgrounds and stuff. And he was actually like one of the few people that actually responded to that type of stuff, which is cool, because almost everybody that you try to email that is like big in the industry is just gonna be like, who's this kid? And just ignore the email, delete it, or respond be like, hey, I'm glad you're a fan, and then that's like it. But yeah, I don't know.
If you're cool about it, it's fine. Like, you actually can badger Tom to some degree, right? Like, at the end of this talk, we're going to come down from our thrones up here and mix with all of you. And no, but like seriously, you can like come and like talk to us, and we're happy to talk to you. Like every single person here, if you're an aspiring indie developer, and I guess half of you probably there. Show of hands who here is? Yeah, okay. So like everyone here has been in your shoes, and like half of us are still in your shoes, right? Like faking it till we make it by sitting up here. Like you can come and talk to us, and we're happy to talk to you, and like that's cool. So do that actually.
That's actually another important note. Is I spend a lot of time standing around the Behemoth booth, and I actually I'm standing there hoping someone's going to come talk to me because it feels really good. And like in the early days when the booth was small, that did happen more. But now I don't know if they don't recognize me or if they're just thinking I'm too busy. But I really am just standing there hoping someone talks to me. So like, if you see me standing there, it's like, come on up.
Yeah.
So I think to build on the point Tom and Eitan made, we like helping people. Like it makes us feel good. There's so much hate on the internet directed at us. When like somebody comes up and legitimately asks us questions, like that's positive and that's cool.
Yes, be positive on the internet. Oh my God, there's too much negativity. This is like totally off topic, but like we're deputizing all of you. If you guys see someone being negative in the gaming community, go and like smack them upside their head and like keep that positivity up.
Meetings will continue until all things
totally. Yeah, no. There's some nastiness in our industry sometimes, and it sucks.
Always. Yeah.
Off topic.
So I'd just like to make another point, like that, because a lot of you are interested in game development. The most important connections that you can make at an event like this are like the people sitting next to you rather than like the people up here, because all of you are in sort of probably the same like situation, either interested in getting into it or just starting out or haven't released a game on Steam or stuff like that. And so you all have like the same experiences, and you can grow with each other and share experiences that way, as opposed to trying to like network with people who've already done that and have thousands of people that have met them at conventions who recognize them, and you don't recognize them back and feel like a piece of shit for it. So some of you will probably, you know, have some hit games in the future, and you don't know who it's going to be.
Yeah, someone in this audience is going to make a game that's going to like make them more well known than we are. Like I can pretty much guarantee that.
How about, let's see, you know, back in the day, 5 years ago, I think this was really true, that you get a group of independent developers into a room together over beers or coffee or whatever, and those were the independent developers in the universe. Whereas nowadays, we're getting, like, literally, Steam will greenlight 100 games at the drop of a hat, right? So how, is it worth networking with other indies anymore? It's sort of a straw man question, but I'm asking it.
Yes.
Why?
Yeah.
Why is it that when you, I mean, who cares about you or me?
That's a good question. Who cares about you?
But if there's enough people who don't care, that's a lot of people at the end of the day, though.
Well, I think what's good about schmoozing with people who work in the same art form as you is that they'll have a more critical eye what you're working on, as opposed to, you know, somebody who either is not familiar with what you're doing or has a passing interest in what you're doing, or is, you know, maybe very passionate about what you do but doesn't quite understand everything that goes into it. You know, somebody who knows, for instance, you know, why a vine in your game, a spiky vine that kills the player, is colliding with you when you're not even touching it, you know, because, for instance, it has a full collision box instead of a pixel-perfect collision, is often a better person to talk to help you improve what you're working on. So, you know, networking in what you do is really the best way to get better at what you do.
Okay, I get it. It's important to network with everybody here. So I have a great idea for a game. Can we make it together?
Maybe.
Well, I guess the other question is, how many of you get random emails about people asking you, I have this great idea for a game, but I don't develop, or like,
So,
I need this skill, this skill.
I think
Mostly
it's
Newgrounds
really
private
important.
messages.
It's really important to realize that ideas are a dime a dozen. Like, seriously, ideas are cheap. And when you make video games, especially 10 years ago before indies were a thing and Unity was free and ubiquitous, people would all the time say, hey, I have an idea for a game. And it's like, so what? I have a million ideas for games. the execution is really important. And I think, you know, when it comes to forming collaborative teams, how you guys work together, what you bring to the collaboration is way more important than just, I have an idea for a game. Because one of the dirty little secrets of the game industry is any game that has ever shipped bears no more than a passing resemblance to what you set out to make.
Yeah, and also like the easiest way, because you can't just say I have an idea for a game, I want to make it together. But most of us up here are probably really good in like one aspect of game development. Like I'm a programmer, so I could program all day long and be fine. But if someone asked me to like draw a circle, I'd be like, that's close enough to a circle. So if someone really wants to make a game with me, they would have to, and I don't know who they are, and they're trying to email me and want me to work on with something, they would probably have to include some really good artwork with it, or animations and stuff, and I'm a bit busy now, so I'm not going to do that right now. But for other people out there, like you might know a programmer who's between projects or something, you can't just say, hey, I want to make a game together, you should have some art. Or if you're a programmer and looking for an artist, it's a little bit easier because you can have a working game and say, hey, do you want to do art for this game for me? Like that's the type of collaboration that indie developers are more interested in than, hey, want to make my game for me? So.
Plus, I mean, you guys saw how many people raised their hands when we asked who here is interested in game development. I mean, you don't need to come to us to help make your game. You have potential partners in this very room, and we don't even have every single seat filled. And out there's a million other people who this week started downloading Unity, and now Unreal is free, and Source 2 is out, and it's free, and everybody's getting into this scene right now. So you don't need our help. You know, there's a bunch of people out there who want to make a game who probably have either a similar idea to yours, or they like your idea, or you like their idea, and you know, you can go find them. There's a new website out called Indie Team Up, where, you know, it only has like 1,500 people on it so far, but there's people there who can help you make your game, even if you don't have any money to pay them. So.
Is that like Tinder for?
Pretty swipe left.
I'm looking for an artist in 50 miles. No, yes.
Shaving $1 billion VC funding for that idea already after mentioning that 3 seconds ago.
If I could just comment on that. So Dan said there are tons of people who are learning Unity that are just picking it up. And I say those people suck to work with. Don't listen to that advice. So would you just go and like date anyone, right? Like if you were gonna go date someone, you wouldn't just date anyone. You have certain standards, right? When you wanna work with someone, make sure you have standards and try to keep them high. Like, I've seen so many teams where someone's like really good, and they're just like, well, I'll work with anyone, and then they work with anyone, and then it turns into crap. And so like, make sure that like, you keep those standards high. If people are learning, that's great, try to help them, be friendly with them, don't work with them. Find someone that's like, able, like as committed to what they're doing as you are, that's like been working as hard as you've been working, that brings as much to the table as you bring to the table. Don't just use the Tinder for you know, gaming things, because you don't want someone that's just picking up Unity yesterday.
So I absolutely agree with Eitan, which is actually more common than not. It's been my own experience that if you do Jacob's steps 1 through 7 on this list he gave us, which is, you know, go out, network, give people business cards, but also make friendships with them, you'll just find people whom you'll want to start making games with. So for instance, we did a game a couple of years ago called Monster Loves You, where I know this Canadian game developer, Andy Moore, who did a game called Steambirds. I think he's a really nice guy. Had been wanting to make a game with him for a while, and it got into this weird dating situation. Like, do you want to make a game with me? I want to make a game with you. And it was at PAX East.
No, you hate.
At a coffee shop where we were like, all right, fine, we're gonna fucking make this game, and we ripped our clothes off and we made this game. And it was a great collaboration. I mean, it got us on, you know, it launched at #1 in many categories on Steam, and it was beautiful, and it was because we did everything else on this list, but it did culminate in, so I have this great idea for a game, can we make this game together? You just have to do the prep work first.
I still want to hear from Tom for this one, because for 10 years, like, Newgrounds was like the best place to find artists and programmers, musicians, and voice actors.
Well, one thing was Like the way Dan and I first started making games was Dan just messaged me out of the blue and asked if I wanted to make a game. We never talked to each other before then, but I'd seen his animation, so I liked his work, and I was like, sure. And you know, there's a lot of artists on the site that might want to make games, and they probably thought that was a ridiculous idea to just ask me if I wanted to make a game, but in reality, like maybe they would have gotten the same answer. And that's something I noticed now too, is there's tons of artists on the web who, they don't mingle in indie circles, they don't come out to gaming events, but they love the idea of making a game, it's just no one asks them. But if you actually ask them, like, hey, like, you ever want to make a game? It's like some of them have full game ideas already, but they just haven't made that leap to actually talk to a programmer. Like, they don't, a lot of times artists and programmers don't mingle that well either, they kind of hang in their own circles. So, yeah. So if you're a programmer, like there's a lot of programmers out there that, you know, they do programmer art, and some of them have these great game concepts that will always be held back by the fact that they don't look particularly intriguing to people. And it's one of those things, if you see an artist or an animator that you like, just take a shot at it and ask them. You can show them what you have, yeah, especially if you have something, if you have like a demo of something that's, you know, that enough to excite them. So yeah, just take that leap.
All right, so we're going to open the questions to the audience, and anybody who has a question, I have goodie bags for you back here too as well. So
There's a microphone
right up there.
One of the goodie bags is poison.
The only one interested.
Yep.
So I am a pixel artist and I'm working for a new studio called Quiet. And they're doing like this interesting game and I enjoy it and everything, but they're not paying me. And since it's my first job and I'm still in my last semester of college or whatever, it's not that big a deal. But how do you approach price points with artists, you guys, and have you encountered any trouble in the indie community with paying artists?
Are you getting a revenue share?
Yeah, that doesn't really.
Is it a significant revenue share?
It's
Are they an established company or a brand new company?
They are. This is their first game, so
Well,
that's
okay.
okay.
Are
So,
they
hold on, over
getting-
the point. Is there a budget for the
There
game?
is a budget.
So if there's a budget for the game and you're providing labor for it, then
I feel like I should be getting paid.
Are the other people getting paid?
The way they're like splitting it up is they have full-time workers and they have a budget for that, but it's fairly small, and they're getting paid a wage, and then they have part-time workers which are working for revenue share, and then freelance, which is getting paid.
That seems a bit
chunk.
backwards.
Yeah, it does seem a bit backwards.
It seems like a full-time worker should be getting revenue share and a part-time.
Look, have you asked for money?
Yeah, actually, they weren't originally going to give me revenue share, but then yeah, they were going to give me.
Yeah, don't absolutely do not work for free like that.
Can I just say something? There's a lot of fly-by-night organizations in the game industry, not just indies and AAA as well. If something smells fishy, run away. Like, there are tons of people who would love to exploit your time and labor and, you know, give you as little as you're willing to accept. And the only way to avoid that is to have a high ceiling for what you're willing to accept.
A good, trustworthy partner will make sure that you have what you need to survive and be happy. Because morale matters. And so,
Or
if you mention to
something
them
fair, it's
that
not
you need
full-time.
some money, and they're like, tough shit, then they're not on your side, right? Like a trustworthy person to work with is gonna make sure that you're taken care of, at least as much as they can. If they have no
that
money,
said, wait. That said, I mean, they didn't tell him to go fuck off. They gave him revenue share, and then he was happy with that, right? I mean, that's the correct way for, maybe not
he
correct, but I
wasn't
mean,
happy
that's.
enough to say. He told
Yeah,
me-
You could be working for yourself for the same amount of money that you're making right now.
But look,
Yeah.
you didn't say no, which is all right.
Yeah.
But until, look, if you were in, if we were in this position and I was, my studio's established, so maybe revenue share means more, maybe it means jack and crap, right? But if you were to say yes to revenue share, I'd be like, I know that you're gonna make X amount of money, I feel like we're doing well by you. And if you didn't ask for more than that, I would never know that you weren't happy with that, and it would mean that you said yes.
Yeah, no, I said yes, so it's not really that big a deal because I don't need the money right now, still in school and everything. But do you think it's like a problem in general in the industry, like versus AAA? Paying artists?
There are people who are willing to
Want
take
and
advantage
see
of
if they work.
something like that, but it's hard to tell without knowing the actual details of the thing. It's a general idea that a good guideline that you shouldn't work for free, but there is something to say with working with friends on a game that you don't know is going to make money or not, and you all have like an equalish stake of its success. Like that's something that I find very cool with the indie game industry that you don't really find elsewhere. But it's on a case-by-case basis whether or not that's a good thing or not.
Thanks.
Just come right up here.
I'm with Indie Studio, and we've done a lot of outsourcing to kind of pay the bills, get the team together, all that kind of thing. As far as moving into original IP, what do you guys recommend? Do you guys do it on the side, or look for funding? What kind of thing advice do you have for transitioning into original IP?
That's really tough because contract work can be a treadmill. And there are some studios like Alchemy Labs that do manage to kind of do one for love, do one for money, do one for love, do one for money. Firehose Games has worked on some really high profile games. But I don't know, my philosophy is always, you set up, the studio you set up to do contract work is different than the studio you set up to spin out crazy ideas. And you know, even studios that have a lot of backing and great corporate partners like Eitan, who you know do ports for years and years and years for high-profile studios, you know, then they put out games like The Order that don't necessarily, either they aren't received very well or they aren't necessarily very profitable. And I think it's tough to balance the two because they're very different things. But Eitan probably, he actually does it, so he might have a different opinion.
I mean, I don't think there's any way we can answer your question without knowing more about you and your studio. It depends a lot on your personal happiness level. It depends a lot on your finances. Can you afford to do this or not do this? It depends on like, do you have this burning desire to make this one game that you must make right now, or like, are you kind of just want to noodle around with something? You've got to talk with your team and work it out with them.
Would you modify any of the advice you've given for someone who's not looking to necessarily make their own games but wants to be a contributor, either art or audio, something like that, in terms of how you network with people, in terms of what kind of relationships you try to develop?
I think it's really cool when people want to kind of bring their skills and their talents to other people's games. I found the first artist I ever worked at by just trolling on DeviantArt and emailing tons of people until somebody agreed to work with me. And that was really cool. And you know, we're still friends. And he's moved on to other games like Space Chem, and you know, he's done pretty well.
Go to local developer meetups and let people know that you want to partner with someone. You just let this whole room know. I guarantee you, when you get away from that microphone before this is over, somebody's going to come up to you and say, "Hey, by the way, what do you do? Are you a programmer, artist?"
I'm a musician.
Musician, great. So someone who needs audio in this room, you don't need to talk to.
Right behind you.
Right behind you.
Yeah. There we go. Networking.
Related question: when you talked about having high standards with who you partner with, again, do you sort of mediate that with, I'm just starting out and I'm looking for kind of whatever opportunity I can get? Does it make more sense? I guess it's situation dependent, but does it make more sense to hold out for something that seems like a better partnership, or just say, sure, let's do this thing and see how it goes?
Are you okay at what you do?
Yeah.
Oh, well, why would I want to partner with you? Are you fucking amazing at what you do?
I think that's a serious point. Look, don't waste your time because you only have so much of it.
Yeah.
And to build on Eitan's point of you must be higher than this to ride this ride. I think you have to work on yourself, and you have to be. There's so many games out there, and there's so much mediocrity. Like you have to turn yourself into the person somebody else would want to partner with. You have to be an amazing ninja with lasers coming out of your eyes. And that's on you. That's not on somebody else. And once you are this amazing ninja with lasers coming out of your eyes,
then people will come to you instead of you going to people.
So I'll make a point on that, is that, well, everyone's saying to find someone who's amazing to work with. I think that it's more important you find someone at the same skill level as you to work with. But that requires knowing exactly what your skill level is.
I think you're so wrong.
Which is very difficult. Well, if you're working with someone who is like way better than you, they're working with someone who's way worse than them. So in order to have a balance, you want to find someone who's, similar skill level to you, but you have to know what level you are and what level they are, and then you can grow together.
Really?
Yeah.
I kind of agree and I kind of disagree. I'm like, what? I'm like in the gray area on that.
No, you
because
gotta pick one.
Yeah.
no.
Just go. You're either with us or you're against us.
That's I disagree
Just
with,
go up to
because
notch and ask them to make a
you
game.
want to work with somebody who they can keep up with you, you can keep up with them, you can stay on the same page together. You don't want to work with somebody who's going to get so far ahead of you, or they're going to lag so far behind you that the project gets held up.
I don't know, I disagree. I think it's great to work with people who are better than you because that's how you learn.
Exactly. I won't battle with you guys on it because there are a bunch of questions, but Trevor is handsome and correct.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
A comment regarding the last question, the only way to get better is to play with every opponent. And the question, you say concept relative to release often bear only a passing resemblance. How do you balance original vision with inevitable influence?
You say fuck it to the original vision.
Yeah. Like seriously, everybody makes shit up as we go along. And what happens is your original vision, you make a prototype, and then I'll show my prototype to Ichiro, who is completely honest in his candor to me, and he'll be like, all right. Like, you have to show it to people also who aren't your friend. And by the way, when somebody plays something for 2 seconds and hands it back to you and goes, oh, that's great, that means it sucks.
Yeah, like the current game that I'm working on, I started off trying to make some weird roguelike puzzle game, and I got as far as making some 3D tiles, and I was like, oh, I want to make sure that the renderer for this works properly, but I don't feel like making a level editor and placing tiles and stuff, so I just added bombs that you could blow up the level to make sure all the sides of the cubes were visible when they were exposed. And I'm like, hey, this is actually pretty fun. So I said, fuck it to the original crappy roguelike idea and started making a game about bombs instead.
If it doesn't change, you're making a sequel.
Hi, my name is Kevin. Thanks for all coming out here, by the way. My question, I graduated college, and it wasn't in programming, it wasn't really in writing, it was just a bachelor degree. I've tried to find some way to transition into the industry, and I'm kind of curious about your guys' background. Like, what were you doing before you were into games, whether you were in school? Me and Trevor were talking a little bit the other day about, you switched careers and you went back to school, as well as the time after that, like when you actually transitioned to actually making money and supporting yourself. I was doing things completely unrelated to gaming, and I still am, so, I'm very interested in just moving somewhere and just working at QA because that seems to be what I would be able to do. I'm kind of curious to hear your guys' backgrounds, your transitions.
So, we were talking yesterday. I was on a trading desk at Morgan Stanley before I started making video games. I started out as a programmer, and that's probably the easiest way into the industry. But it's, there's so many, back then there was no such thing as a headhunter in video games. And, the internet was a shadow of what it is today. Like, big studios didn't have websites with job postings. EA didn't have a whole career site dedicated to it. I think there's a lot of legwork to break into the industry, but it so much depends on what discipline you want to do, but there's entry-level slots in almost every discipline.
I actually did web development for like pharmaceutical and financial, and was doing Newgrounds was like my hobby since high school. So once I started doing Flash is it's just like low-end Flash games at the beginning, and then just escalated from there. So I was really fortunate that Newgrounds took off, and I was able to leave my web development work and focus on that. Basically just making web games up until Behemoth, then with Dan and John forming that. So yeah, I was really lucky that I got that path because I grew up loving games, but I never had that confidence that I would, I never planned to move to California because I thought that's what you'd have to do to join the game industry. And so I was, it would have been interesting to see what my path would have been otherwise if I'd still be like a hobbyist making games, or how it would have panned out.
Yeah, I started off submitting games to Newgrounds as a teenager, which is pretty fun because you could very easily talk to all the people who are like famous on Newgrounds because there was a smaller community of creators back then. So people were willing to talk to each other. Everyone had instant messenger games on their profiles, and you could be like, "Oh, this guy looks cool," instant messenger, and talk about games with them and stuff. And then I ended up eventually going to college and dropping out of college because the Behemoth was I had known them from submitting so many games to Newgrounds, and they were like, "Hey, if you don't want to go with the publisher, talk to us." And so I did, and they ended up funding the first game that I made professionally. So basically, I never had an actual job.
Tom is responsible for Tyler's delinquency.
I am intimidated by everybody that either, years ago they were on Newgrounds and they just happened to get lucky, or as well as long as they work. But like people today that are just like still in school and they're like, "Oh, I'm in my junior, I'm a senior, I'm working on this and this project," and I'm like, okay, I got a little bit of programming, I hate it. But I'm trying to get that done. So
you said something about get lucky. That is a subject for a completely new talk, but that's a subject for a completely different talk. I'm pretty sure there's some articles on like Gamma Sutra or something about the concept of luck in the game industry and stuff. It's not necessarily.
I mean, keeping plugging away and keeping it consistent, keep working, getting better.
Yeah, the more you do something, eventually something good will happen. But just keep at it, I guess. Next question.
Thank you.
Thanks. Let's keep the questions quick because we only have like 7 more minutes right now, so I want to get to as many people as possible.
So in the indie development community, especially on Kickstarter, we're seeing a lot of cross-promotion. What are some tips for cross-promotion? How much is too much? Is there never enough?
Never enough.
So for Elegy for a Dead World, our writing game, we did a Kickstarter campaign in September. We cross-promoted with, I don't know, a dozen other Kickstarters. I'm not sure if it was actually measurably different.
I think it only matters if there's very strong overlap.
Do you guys get the impression, this isn't really cross-promotion related, do you get the impression Twitter's the best place to get visibility for Kickstarter? Like, I always get the impression that things kind of take off on Twitter, and that's what makes the Kickstarter.
I think actually Kickstarter, if you can connect with the people running Kickstarter, which you can, right? I mean, they have community managers, and if they feature your game, I think that's the #1 thing you can do, but I'm not.
Just ask someone who's run a Kickstarter for like an introduction to someone at Kickstarter.
But actually, I think Twitter's a great suggestion because Twitter may not be big, but it's super active.
Yeah.
And it's hyper active. And there's a lot of journalists who hang out on Twitter, and a lot of people who back Kickstarters and buy games.
Like, I learn about most of my Kickstarters on Twitter, so that's what makes me curious if there's like other venues, because that's the impression I get is that it's like everyone echo chambering there, sort of.
It depends on the game, but I think the old school stuff with YouTube and traditional journalism still matters. But let's move on.
Yep.
We got 1 minute left.
I was just going to say my personal experience. Our biggest.
Not a question.
Okay, you have a collaboration. You've worked with people. They're not living up to your expectation. How do you cut them?
Wait,
that is an awkward situation.
You cut them first? Can you have a conversation? Because sometimes it's a question of you're not living up to their expectations. If you can sit down with them twice over the course of a couple of weeks and figure out why they're not performing, maybe you're not giving them the support that they need. But I think everybody on this panel is going to say that if after N number of weeks you are not happy with that person, get rid of them.
There's a lot of articles you can read about this sort of thing online if you just do a Google search for it. Generally speaking, be professional, be a good person about it, don't be a jerk, and don't be apologetic. Drop the person if they're no good.
But can I also say the best way to handle that situation is to avoid it. And that's one reason why being so picky in who you work with is important. And also being awesome yourself is important.
All right. Next question.
Thank you so much.
I think it was your last question, right?
Yeah.
You got time for a couple more.
Okay.
All right, so the barrier of entry to making games going down and more people are going to make games, there's going to be more bad games. How do you think, with the high standards you guys talk about, do you think there is a point where someone should throw in the towel and give up trying to be a game developer, and how would that person identify that?
Yeah, look, this is a really difficult thing to do. Making games is hard. I know there's all this talk that everybody has a game inside them. Maybe, but getting it out is a painful, long, difficult process. I think only you can answer whether you should throw in the towel or not. But definitely don't put all your eggs into the video game basket.
Dating analogy, because we like those. If you're dating someone and you're in a relationship with them, especially a new relationship, and you start getting a gut feeling, I'm not sure this is going to go anywhere. It's always the case that it's not going to go anywhere. There's really never a circumstance where somebody thinks that and then winds up being like, you know what? I was wrong. This person's perfect, right? It's pretty much the same with games. People who succeed are people who must make this game and cannot be stopped, and holy crap, they're just going to do it because they're a fanatic. And so you should take a cold hard look at yourself, and if you're at this point where you're pretty much not doing it. So,
yeah. If you stop having fun with it, and I mean, even the stressful parts of game development are still fun to an extent, or
to a very limited extent.
A very limited extent, but if you're really at the point where you're just dreading working, actually making the game, not the other bullshit that goes on with the marketing and business stuff, if that stuff's going to drain on you no matter what. But if the actual making of the game is not fun anymore, then it's probably time to sit down and take a look at what your actual goals are.
Thank you.
All right.
What's up? Oh, sorry. Yeah, so local game development events are the best. I know Massachusetts has a very live community. Vancouver's crazy. I'm from Toronto and Venture, so it's great. But not everyone's
we have to get to the question.
Yeah, but not everyone has the pleasure of being in a giant city. So, what kind of resources would you have?
Seriously? Are you serious about this fucking move?
Yeah.
Why are you in the middle of nowhere?
Well, yeah, I have a bunch of buddies who live in Winnipeg, and they're like, "Oh, we don't have a thing." Or
hold on, Winnipeg.
Go where the jobs are, go where the community is.
If you want to be an actor or an actress, if you want to make a movie, you move to Hollywood. That's how it works. If you now video games are more decentralized, and you can make a video game in East nowhere. But generally speaking, if you cannot find the support that you need in the place that you are, and you love doing this thing and you need it to happen, then you need to be somewhere where it can be supported.
Right, so it's just better to move out than try to create a small local...
No, if you can create the small local thing, great, go and do it. But my point is that's not always going to be possible depending on where you live. So, or you could find people that you can work remotely with, but that's a minefield in and of itself.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks.
Let's shuffle through the rest really fast.
Hi, so following on that question, you mentioned indie meetup, sorry. Is there another way, or are there other ways of reaching out, finding other people locally?
Go on Twitter, search city name Indies Meetup, and you'll find something.
I think another thing to bring up, remember Phil Fish started TIG Source? There was some big website that he was really active on.
That was Derek.
Sorry?
Yeah, if there's no local community you can find, be active in an online community, and just do lots of Google searches to find out who's local. Also, it doesn't have to be indie. There are probably professional non-indie studios. Go and find those people, make friends with them. They're just as good. Their big dirty secret in games is they're professional game people are just as awesome as indie people. Indie people aren't magically better. We're just poorer.
Everybody this guy.
So we only have one more minute, but I'd just like to thank everybody who came out to the panel today. It's been a blast. I'd like to thank all our panelists.
They're going to have to stop you. Ask. Go.
As an artist, what is the easiest way to go get into the gaming community?
Make cool shit, put it online,
And
let people see it.
What are some websites that you recommend or places to place art?
Like Newgrounds and Deviant are good ones, right? Yeah, and also one thing, sometimes we notice people because they make fan art, and it's if you really like some people making a game, and you make some fan art, not only does that totally make their day, because fan art's one of the best things anyone can do for you, but that they go get on their radar, they'll know you exist, and then if you meet them later or talk to them later, they'll be like, hey, that's that guy who made the cool fan art. So.
Tweet the fan art to them.
All right, thank you.
They're all on
Thanks.
Twitter.
If you guys would like to ask some more questions, we're going to be outside, so we have to vacate. But thank you so much.
That door over there.
Right there.
Thanks, everyone.